other forces in Europe. So they'll also tell you these people are they're the Muslim Brotherhood. They're people who may have been in Al-Qaeda, or they're Salafists. Salafists is just another brand of this extreme religious fundamentalism. Some of them just say those are fundamentalists and anathematizers. In other words, they're religious sectarians who say that everybody's bad except them. The governor talked a lot about mafia, organized crime, and you got the idea, drug pushers. So it looks to me like this has been thrown together. But the finding that I would have to make at this point, after having really heard a lot of very important first-person testimony, this problem is in the hundreds. It's not more than several hundred of these killers, with a certain amount of backup. Now, how much that is hard to say. I asked some very intelligent people in this hospital today, what should the Syrian government do? And they say simple: send more army troops. They say we want soldiers on the roofs of the houses, on the top floors of apartment houses. We'd like to have some tanks in the streets, but above all, we'd like to have some soldiers on the roof, because if the soldiers get up on the roof, then the snipers can't go there, and they can't do it. I was talking to a young woman doctor who was about to walk home, and as she walks home, she's got to worry about getting shot. Right? You're just getting shot. I was shown a picture of a 3 or 4-year-old girl who was shot dead in an automobile with her mother and some other little girls. Now, there is one exception to this sniper rule, which is that kidnappings do go on, and there are significant kidnappings going on. The kidnapping is often a prelude to a murder. I visited with this group a bereaved family, and their son had been killed. Their son was a taxi driver. These were Alawites. They belonged to the same ethno-religious group as the Assad family, but these were people. Right? The guy was a taxi driver. So he was kidnapped by these, as they said, fundamentalists. People with beards is often what you hear too. He was kidnapped and then he was murdered. In other cases, bodies have been dismembered. They've been cut into dozens of parts. There are also stories that I won't go into maybe now, but about the mutilation of women victims.
Yeah, but let me just stop you. We'll get into that when we come back. And you're joining us from Syria. Dr. Webster Tarpley joins us. But this is the same story where they was on BBC with the jihadis from Saudi Arabia saying, Syria, you're next. And running up al-Qaeda flags. So that's who's there. CIA, Saudi Arabia's brought him in. And Webster, you're being unpatriotic. An American's duty, according to our government's real policy, is to love al-Qaeda. Now, I don't like them either. That's because we're evil. And I think you should, when we come back, apologize that you're not supporting al-Qaeda. We'll be right back with Webster.
We're on the march. The empire.
Relax. All right, we're going back to Webster Tarpley. And you know what? I am going to jam some calls in, but I'm introducing something other talk show hosts do. But instead of radio graffiti 7 seconds or 10 seconds, I will give you 30 seconds and myself 10 seconds and take your phone calls when Tarpley leaves us here in about 10 minutes. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231. And, of course, we've only got 6 phone lines at Genesis. We've got like 100 here. But I'm going to do this in the future on my system so we can just bam, 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 go through them. It'll be hard for John to get them as they come in. But call now, 800-259-9231. And when you hear somebody hang up, that's your chance to get on air. That way it makes me shut up and makes me go to your calls. I'll tell you about a few sponsors. eFoodsDirect.com is running a whole bunch of different specials right now at eFoodsDirect.com/Alex. That's where you find the specials. They've got holiday packs that are discounted massively. They've got free samples, you name it, all at eFoodsDirect.com/Alex or 800-876-0871. Folks, you're nuts if you don't get high-quality, storable food, and this is the best place out there, bar none. 800-876-0871 or eFoodsDirect.com/Alex. Continuing, Diamond Gusset Jeans has a whole new line of Made in America jeans, all styles for men and women. Go to gussetclothing.com and take a look at the great American-made product from the field to the factory. All Gusset jeans are made right here in America. Whether you were looking for bootcut, slim fit, or Kevlar reinforced like the Defender motorcycle jeans, you can find something for every member of your family. They got shirts and stuff, too. Check them out at gussetclothing.com, Gusset clothing.com, or 888-8-GUSSET, 888-8-GUSSET. And they've got some specials for the holidays running as well at gussetclothing.com. All right, Webster, I'm going to try to shut up now. I've asked my questions. What is the larger geopolitical? You're there doing groundbreaking investigation. You are some of the only journalists to ever get into that area. I've been following it. Nobody's even going or even trying. They just sit back and say Assad is roasting children on a pit and maybe Satan. And he's also with al-Qaeda. But meanwhile, it's known that al-Qaeda works for the New World Order and has been given new fiefdoms. Finish up with Syria, then I want to ask you, what's the strategy of tension here, the order out of chaos? What are they planning to do with al-Qaeda after they give them all these countries? I mean, I guess they'll just tell the public, oopsie, al-Qaeda took over. Now we've got to attack them again. I mean, what's happening here?
Well, again, just to sum up the finding, the neighborhood of Zahra, Z-A-H-R-A, in the city of Homs, 1 million people, this is one of the principal neighborhoods. It turns out that this entire insurrection comes down to a couple of hundred terrorist snipers who are carrying out random shootings and kidnappings in order to terrorize all the relevant groups.
Random freedom fighting, though. They're helping people, killing them. But I mean, this is just like Iraq, where even former top CIA analyst Ray McGovern's come on and talked about it. Later it came out that the Iraqi government with U.S. forces blew up the Golden Mosque to get Shiites and Sunnis killing each other. This is a classic, stir up the whole thing, call it a people's rebellion, bomb the whole country, and roll in and be praised, and have Anderson Cooper, in a Nelly way, prance around on stage talking about democracy.
So it is exactly that kind of a big lie. So a couple of hundred people. Now, one thing that I think has to be pointed out, what I found was people supporting Assad. They were chanting in favor of President Assad, and they were holding up their own, not government manufactured pictures of him, but their own little pictures. And we went in a couple of houses, and there were pictures there too in one of these houses of one of the victims. At the same time, there's a criticism of Assad that he hasn't done enough. One guy did a very interesting analysis. He said, look, this starts with the CIA, it starts with the Mossad, and then it goes through these other groups, right, other Arab countries, ethnic groups, criminal elements. And he said, on the whole, the response of the regime has been too tame. And again, a couple of doctors and other people in the hospital asked him, what should happen here? We want the army. We want more troops in our neighborhood. We want this to come to an end, because it's been going on since Friday, March 18th. Friday, March 18th. Now, what is it, 7, 8 months ago? That was Friday prayers. And one guy said there was a bunch of things on Facebook saying, go to such and such a square in Homs, and we're going to call for the overthrow of Assad. And they get out there. The police is there in small numbers. They get to demonstrate for 3 hours. Then the police say, okay, 3 hours, it's time for us to go home. Time for you guys to go home, too. Why don't we just call it a day? And they say, no, we're staying. And then at a certain point, when the police say, well, let's why don't you guys move on? And they start to shove them. At that point, the demonstrators, in this case, probably the Muslim Brotherhood, they pull out knives and they start to stab the cops. This is right at the beginning, Friday the 18th of March. It was never peaceful. It was never democratic. It was stabbing, right, starting out not with firearms but with blade weapons. And then the cops respond, not even with gunfire, but with tear gas. So that's the start. But right now, it's just this bloodbath. And again, I think the message to Assad from these people that I heard is simply this, and I'm just reporting what I heard. They support Assad all the way, but they want more troops. They want him to do more. They say, this is not enough. It's a little bit too tame what you're doing. So this is exactly the opposite of what you're hearing. And another way to put it is, the reality here is not that the troops are killing civilians. That's the exception to the rule. It does happen, of course, because you get caught in these demonstrations and some civilians get killed. But the thing is that civilians, i.e. terrorists, these people that we've just gone through the catalog of, they're killing the troops. The governor said, I think his figure was 850 people have been killed whatever it's been. And I think he said something like at least 200 have been soldiers. So the soldiers are a very, very large part.
But of course, NATO and the peace president, they want to liberate with carpet bombing and leveling of cities and infrastructure, so the liberals can all feel very trendy and prance around with little, effeminate lisp and be big men like Anderson, CIA Cooper. So what's the larger game plan here, and how is it going for the forces that want to set the entire Middle East and North Africa ablaze? Gaddafi held them up for 6 months, but now they've got the country to carry out the ethnic cleansing all the way into Africa. That's been admitted, so the mass death and al-Qaeda takeover can now happen. But how's the overall plan of mass murder going?
Just in terms of the neighboring countries, maybe we start with that and then move on to the superpower stuff. In the neighboring countries, it's very interesting that the centers of such insurrection as there is, which is not that much, right? It's nothing like Libya. With Libya, there was a whole belt of cities that were completely lost to Gaddafi from the very beginning, right? Benghazi, Darna, Tobruk, the whole Cyrenaica area was gone within a couple of weeks. In this case, it's a couple of neighborhoods or small areas or small towns along 4 borders. Along the Lebanese border, close to it, is Homs, right? And Hama, that's the other place. Homs and Hama being a bit smaller. Okay, so that's the Lebanese border. Then you go up to the Turkish border. There's an area there where there's some kind of insurrection going on. You go over to the Iraq border, and there you find that there's something going on. It's across from the Iraqi Kurds, right, the Kurdish entity. And then there's another area, which is this Daraa, I think it's called. That's the Jordan border, right? Jordan is to the south. So 4 borders, 4 foreign countries. It's like each one of the foreign countries has sponsored a center of terrorism and agitation inside this country. Now, looking beyond it, you have to ask yourself, you're really going to start a regional war for the sake of a couple of hundred terrorist killers, because that's what Hillary Clinton and Ambassador Rice there at the UN say they want to do. The difference, of course, is over the weekend we just had the Arab League, blackmailed and bribed, I'm sure, by the United States, say, Syria, you're suspended. Now, tomorrow, Wednesday, the Arab League is meeting, I think, somewhere in Morocco, and they're going to say, is that a permanent suspension or is it just a temporary suspension? If they can get the Arab League to say that it's suspended, that Syria is suspended, they can go back to the Security Council, because now they can say, up to now, we couldn't get anything through the Security Council against Syria because the Arab League didn't go along with it. But now they've suspended Syria. Now we can say the Arab League has turned against Syria. They go back and they try it. Now, I don't think they'll get anywhere. The Russian Foreign Ministry yesterday said, we don't agree with the stuff that's being done against Syria, right? We're not a part of that. And I think the Chinese probably see it the same way. But we have been disappointed by those guys in the past before, right? So Russia, China had better hang tough. But if they don't, then what happens, right? If you get a bombing campaign here, I can't see how Iran and Hezbollah stay out of this. And if they come in, right, we've had statements in the past couple of weeks where it's pretty clear that the retaliation, even just from Syria, would go all the way to Israel, and it would go deep into Israel. And at that point, you'd get some kind of a regional conflagration effect. And at that point, the sky's the limit, right? Hold on to your hat, because then it goes out of control, and then nobody knows where it ends, because suppose an aircraft carrier gets sunk or something like this, right? And then there has to be retaliation for that, and then there has to be counter-retaliation. And you get into these scenarios of runaway, retaliation and God knows what. So I think it's very clear. This stuff has to end. The Syrians obviously need to do their part. I think these people have a good case that they want more protection from their government. But then there's also us, right? The United States has got to butt out of this. This is just it is simply a big lie. In other words, there is no movement against Assad in the way that they say it. There is no group that says,
look, Webster, we're out of time. We're definitely going to have you back up the next few days. How long are you in Syria?
I've got quite a number of days, so we can certainly arrange something for probably towards the end of the week.
Yeah, let's get